Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Mercy Art. So on this video we're going to explore how someone can move to Sweden through work. On the previous video, I think if you've watched, you'll notice that I've explored different ways in which someone can move to Sweden, whether it's through studies, whether it's through work, whether it's through moving to a relative, or probably moving to start your own business. So on the last video, I mostly targeted the people who are moving to Sweden in terms of employment. Now, this video today is going to target those people who want to move to Sweden to be self-employed, specifically to start their own business. In case you have your own business back at home, in case you have an idea and you want to start your own startup company, let me tell you, there are different ways in which people have different ideas depending with their area of specialization. So now there is a special kind of visa here in Sweden that is targeting those people who really want to relocate here and start their business or just move their business from their own home country to Sweden. Now, I think it's been a question. Based on your area, this video is going to give different examples. So it's upon you to just pick what you need, especially in terms of the requirements, and try to see how you can apply that in terms of your business. The first thing you have to know is that for you to live in Sweden for more than 3 months, you must have a residency permit. So what we call the visa per se, in Sweden, basically you're given a residency permit. And this only applies to people who want to be here for more than 3 months. So just in case you want to have your business here, of course, permanently relocate here, or rather live here for more than 3 months, it could be 1 year, 2 years, or forever, you must first of all apply for a residency permit. Now, the title under which you're going to apply the residency permit is basically referred to as Application of the Residency Permit for Self-Employed Applicants, or Application of the Residency Permit for those people who want to start a business. It's very clear on the website, also on the embassy they're going to tell you the same thing. So first things first, I'm going to give you the requirements, okay? What it takes for you to qualify to apply for this residency permit. This is totally different from what you're going to attach. So I will start with the requirements first of all. Then immediately after that, I'm going to guide you on the kind of things you need to attach to strengthen your application, okay? Then the rest of the procedure I'm going to explain once I tell you about the attachments of the documentation. Now, first things first, you are supposed to show that you have experience in your industry. Assuming you have a beauty kind of business, how long have you been running this? I'm looking into someone probably who is already in you are already in your home country, and you feel that maybe this business can thrive in Sweden. Based on your research, you must show that you have experience, okay? It could start with probably training, qualifications. It could also show how your business is doing, how long it's been running. You must prove, first of all, how experienced you are in your industry. It doesn't matter the kind of business you're doing, you must show how experienced you are. Number 2, you must have a valid passport. And by this I mean, it's not just about having a valid passport. You must have a passport that is expiring, let's say, more than 2 years ahead. Because if you have a passport that is expiring the next 1 month or 1 week, chances are you may not qualify to be given a residency permit. Reason why I'm saying that is because almost all the residency permits in Sweden, especially I'm talking about the temporary residency permits, they are given at a maximum of 2 years, and they look at when your passport is expiring. So just in case your passport is almost expiring, find a way of extending it or renewing it, depending on what your country will advise you, especially at the migration. You need to check out, different countries have different rules, okay? Great. Now, number 3, you must have relevant knowledge in English. They say in English or Swedish. There is a reason why they say this. First of all, just in case you come from a country that uses English as the official language or English as the mode of communication in terms of delivery of curriculum in schools and educational institutions, you don't really need to worry about this because that's approved enough. But in case you come from a country that does not have English as a formal or official language, or a language that was used during your academia, you may need to actually sit for the English exams just to prove that you're able to communicate in English, Now, apart from that, in case you've learned Swedish, depending with where you are, well and good. I think this will be a big plus. There is a caution though. In case you're planning to start a business that is so much involved with the communication of different people, it could be a business relating to, let's say, education, nursing, the kind of industry that requires you to talk to people. Chances are, the moment you come to Sweden, you have no choice but to study Swedish. That is kind of compulsory. Okay, so just in case you're planning to apply, you have to think about that. How will you communicate with people, for example? Now, something else about Sweden is that many people, let me say a bigger percentage of, let me say almost everyone in Sweden can speak English. But that's not it. When it comes to English in terms of just communication, everyone will understand what you're saying. But when it comes to the official language that is used in offices, in terms of official documents, emails, everything will come in Swedish. And I'm talking about also websites, official websites, to do with your social security number. Everything is in Swedish, and it can be really overwhelming in case you don't understand the language. Those are some of the challenges we face as foreigners when we come. We have no option but to learn the language, because sometimes you find that the government is sending you emails and all the emails will be in Swedish. So you have to use the Google Translate, and sometimes with the Google Translate, there is a way in which some meaning is usually lost. So you may really, really think about that. Now we have number 4. Another requirement which you need to actually make sure you have before you apply for this kind of permit, the residency permit to be a self-employed person, is that you must prove that you are the person running the company. Almost equivalent to being the owner of the company. Let's say having a bigger percentage of the responsibility of the company. Assuming you have a company that was founded by maybe 2 people, 3 people, and there's a possibility that you're not the one who is carrying all the weight of the company, chances are this may actually be a challenge for your application, because you must prove that you're the owner, you are the one running the most of the responsibility in this company. Almost the business is yours, etc. You must prove that, okay? This brings me to point number 5. This is a bit, let me say, a bit a sweaty issue, because you need to show that you have enough money. You need to show that you have enough money to take care of you for 2 consecutive years. And by this I mean, just in case you're planning to come with your family here, you must show that you're able to take care of yourself, to take care of your family for the remaining part of the 2 years. That is the time frame for the residency permit. And there are specific figures for this, First thing, for yourself, you must show this by having enough money. And I'll give you the figures. According to the Swedish Migration Agency, they say for yourself, you must have 200,000 Swedish krona. That's equivalent to, I did the math, that's equivalent to 20,000 US dollars. In Kenya shillings, in case you come from Kenya, you must have at least 2.8 million shillings for yourself. Putting that aside, in case you have a partner, let's say, and by partner here, I'm talking about either your wife or your husband, you must also take care of them, okay? So apart from the 200,000 Swedish krona you have shown, you must show an extra 100,000 Swedish krona for your partner. And 100,000 Swedish krona, we are basically talking about 10,000 US dollars. In Kenya shillings, depending with the rate, is around 1.4, Is it 1.4? Yes, 1.4, 1.5 million Kenya shillings. So remember the 200,000 Swedish krona for yourself, an extra 100,000 krona, and just in case you have children, one child, you are supposed to have an extra 50,000 Swedish krona, okay? So there's the 200,000 Swedish krona for yourself, 100,000 Swedish krona for your partner, then you have 50,000 Swedish krona for one child. So that gives us 350,000 Swedish krona. Just in case you have 2 children, you need to budget. You multiply the 50,000 Swedish krona times the number of kids you have. So in case you have 2 kids, that you're talking about 100,000 Swedish krona. 3 kids, 150,000 Swedish krona. It doesn't matter the age. If you're blessed enough, you have 5. So you just calculate 50,000 Swedish krona times the 5 kids you have, plus the 200,000, which is yours, and 100,000 for your partner. So you do the math. Now, just in case you were talking about a family that has, for example, you, your partner, and one child, In total, it's giving us a total of course 350,000 Swedish krona, which is equivalent to around 4.8 million Kenya shillings. Let's round off the 4.8 million, give it 5 million. So a small family, father, mother, kid, you must have 5 million at least in your account, just to prove that you can take care of yourself and your family for the remaining part of the 2 years. Great. In case you're moving alone, you will only need the 200,000 Swedish krona, which is equivalent to 20,000 US dollars. In Kenya shillings, depending the rate, is around 2.8 million. So budget for 3 million Kenya shillings, okay? Now, talking money, I know it's a bit uncomfortable there. But now, also one thing you have to be cautious about. Sometimes I've seen it happening, it could be people, and I've seen it also on the internet, a scenario whereby people try to deposit some money. Of course, they ask friends to deposit some money just to prove to the embassy, and then later on they transfer the money back to the people. Don't play those games with the Swedish embassy. Trust me. You will come here, they will want to see the exact amount of money you have. So just in case you did that to get the bank statement, you come here, things will be really tough, because first of all, the moment you apply for the residency permit to be a self-employed person, it's illegal to come here and get employment. It's illegal to do another job. I'm saying this because we've seen some of the people who move abroad, and a few things which people do, especially when they're required to show the bank statements, the issue of just, piling some money from friends and family. Then the moment you get your bank statement, you have to transfer back the money. Don't try that with the Swedish embassy. Don't try that. Don't try that with the Swedish Migration Agency, because it will just land you in problems, And one thing I know about this country is that they really, really advocate for transparency, If, let's say, for example, it was less by, 5,000 Kenya shillings, you can explain yourself. I don't know if they can agree, but you'll rather be as open as possible. Don't play those games, because you'll end up either suffering or you're breaking the law, So just so you know. Now, number 6, we have documentation for your budget. And I'm talking about the budget of your company. How are the books like? You need to show this as well. For the people who are in business, they will understand, okay? Now, number 7, you need to show that you have created a customer contact in Sweden. Now, whenever you're trying to apply for this kind of residence permit, I would advise that you do your research well. Number 1, try to look at, is it marketable? Where do I start when I come to Sweden? Which kind of location will I have my business? In case it's a virtual business, you can actually have it, let's say, for example, at home or depending with the arrangement, But in case it's a business that require you to meet people, chances are you need to think about the location, probably within a cosmopolitan area or an area that your business is going to thrive. And they highly advocate that you must have built a network in Sweden. This brings me to another point. Just before you even apply for this kind of permit, I can advise you to maybe take your time and probably visit Sweden, You can first of all apply for a tourist visa, in which you can come here for at least in less than 3 months, maybe 2 months or so, 2.5 months, check around, build your clientele. And I'm not talking about work, I'm talking about research, building your connection here in Sweden, because that's the kind of connection that you're going to prove to the embassy that I have built a network in business, and through this network, I'm planning ABCD. It's just going to strengthen your application, okay? Now, as I said earlier on, when you visit, you're not coming to work. You're basically coming to build a network. Okay, so that's number 7. Number 8, you need to pay the application fee. The application fee for one person, an adult, is 2,000 Swedish krona. 2,000 Swedish krona, according to the exchange rates, we're talking about something between 25,000 to 30,000 Kenya shillings, Give it 25,000 or 26,000, because sometimes the rates keep on fluctuating, you have to really be on the watch out, yeah? So 2,000 Swedish krona for the application fee. This is non-refundable, okay? Just in case you don't get a residency permit, no one is going to pay you back this money. It's just the same way we apply for different visas. Most of the visas in different countries, most of the visa fees are usually non-refundable. So you have to remember that, yeah? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, those are the requirements for application of your residency permit to start your own business, and I'm talking about being a self-employed person in Sweden. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what about the attachments? So before you even go to do the application at the embassy, you must have the relevant attachments to your application form, okay? The first thing is passport copies, of course, and I'm talking about passport copies of yourself, of the family that you have, and just make sure that they're up to date in the sense that no passport is expiring the next 1 week, okay? You need to have bank statements. I'm sure previously I've been talking about, the figures about what you need to have. Do the math. How many people are going? Is it you alone? Do the math accordingly. Make sure that you have your bank statements at least for the past 3 months, okay? Have a bank statement, and it's not just a bank statement. At least have a bank certificate that is signed from the bank, okay? Because the bank statements, you can always get them online. So just to certify that this is, it's current, this bank statement is legit and everything of that. So go to your bank. The managers will always do that for you. That's their work anyway. And make sure that the money is there. Don't play games on the Swedish embassy. You'll just regret, Now, number 3, you need to have the purchase contracts, If you're into business, I think you'll understand that. You need to have the business license, and I'm talking about the business license from your country. You need to have the business registration certificate. Those are 2 different things. I think if you're into business in Kenya, you will understand this. You must have the registration certificate. It must be legit. Have the copies. Have it notarized, okay? Because also when it comes to these copies, make sure all your copies are notarized, yeah? And you can always get that to be done with the advocates. There's so many in town, especially in Nairobi, like you can always get an advocate to do this for you. Now, you also need to have the business registration certificate from Sweden. That means before you even do anything per se, try your best to check up with the Swedish check up with the Swedish government in terms of registration of companies for foreigners, whether you meet the standards, whether you meet the qualification. So this is something you really need to do a thorough research, okay? You must have what we call the trading company agreement or share registry, okay? If you're into business, as I told you earlier on, that's something that you will understand. And also depending on the kind of business that you want to start, Now you find that there are those particular businesses that you may not really require all these attachments, especially if it's let's say a one-owned kind of business. If you're an artist, if you're hairstylist, nail stylist, you have only your own small business, you may not really need all these attachments that I'm talking about, okay? You must need to have proof of the company purchase. Just in case it's the kind of business that you bought from someone, you need to have the proof that you bought this company. And it's not just that, you must have documentation that you paid for this particular business and there was an agreement between you and the person who sold it for you. Just in case also you have a co-owned kind of business, you need to also have an agreement that this other person is allowing you to actually relocate and you're relocating with this business. You have agreed, and just in case, depending, that's the kind of business you have, You also need to have copies of contracts with customers, suppliers, for example. I'll give an example. If you have, let's say, a business that really required you to have lots of supplies done, maybe it was, a kind of business that, requires people to deliver supply stuff to you, you must have the contract that show, Let me give an example of beautician, for example. You may have supplies for different detergents, different things that you're using at your salon. You need to show this kind of documentation, and I think it will really, really cement your application. It's going to really enhance it and strengthen your application because it's showing how legit your business is, yeah? So once you attach that, you need, I forgot to continue counting the numbers because we just have so much. You need to show a balance sheet and profit and loss statement for the current financial year up to the previous month, okay? So these are some of the things that are really, really needed also for your application. And then we're almost finishing. We need to also have a copy of certificate to prove your English proficiency. You notice you're coming to Sweden, a country that uses Swedish and English at the same time. It's not just enough to say I can speak English. you need to prove your proficiency in English or Swedish. I'm giving an example of English a lot because chances are you may not have learned Swedish, but then in case you're coming, have an intention of studying it. So one of the ways in which you can prove that you are, capable of speaking English is by showing probably your academic particulars, in case you come from a country that was using English in terms of the academics, you don't need to worry. In case you come from a country that was not using English, you may need to sit for the English test, all those things. Yeah, now putting that aside, you also need to have your academic qualification certification. Show us which kind of degrees you have in case you have a training. And if you have training or certificates, anything in relation to your work in terms of knowledge that you've acquired, it would be really, really important also to attach that in case you got awards, for example, in your business. These are just the things that are going to help so much. In case you have recommendations, referrals. I'm not just talking about referrals from your friend. It could be something from major. Maybe it could be another company that has given you a recommendation or routing for you. These are things you need to really consider as well. Now, putting that aside, you also need to have your employment certificates just in case you have been employed previously or you had some sort of employment before you started your business or concurrently with your business. You need to show your employment certificates, basically showing who was your employer, what the role you're doing, how long have you been doing it, how many hours have you been working on it. These are things that are going to really strengthen your application. And then the last one, just a quick reminder, in case you apply for this kind of permit, the moment you get the decision, and let's say you are already in Sweden, just know that you will never be allowed to work anywhere else. In case someone offers you a job and you're in Sweden, you are not supposed to take the job. Instead, you are supposed to go back to the embassy, tell them, okay, I wanted to start my business here, it's not doing well. You need to reapply for the change of your profession, Let's say, for example, you want now to be employed. You may need to go back to your home country and do another application for a residency permit just to allow you to be employed, because they are treated as two different things. Don't think that you'll come to Sweden, you wanted to start your business is not doing well, someone is offering you a job, and you think you'll just switch like that. It doesn't work like that. You must be in contact with the migrations agency. Chances are they will tell you to go back to Kenya and do another application for the residency permit through employment, and you go through the same procedures of having a contract, things which I already discussed on my previous video. So now, one thing you also have to know is that whenever you're moving to Sweden, let's say, for example, you have decided, okay, I want to start this business. It can be really, really advisable if you enroll in some of the Swedish institutions that offer Swedish classes. Mostly it's called the SFI, the Swedish for Immigrants. There are different levels in which you can start. And the beauty about it is that the moment you have a residency permit, you have a right to go through these classes and it's free. No one will tell you to pay anything. So these are some of the things you really need to consider when you're coming here. Great, ladies and gentlemen, that was enough for today. And in case you have any questions concerning this area, feel free to let me know. In the meantime, it's a bye. In Swahili, we say kwaheri. In Swedish, it's hej då. Mwah. I love you all.